In my first video about the Tree of Life, I stated that the Hebrew biyom, translated in the day in the New World Translation, means literally within the space of a day. However, it's important to note that scholars are divided on the subject. I still personally believe that the phrase in the day in Genesis 2 verse 17 at least suggests promptness, something that would happen soon, rather than over a long period of time. But I admit I may have spoken too confidently before. This is my interpretation, not a settled fact. That said, there are valid arguments in defense of this viewpoint. Phrases like in the day can mean different things depending on context. Sometimes they refer to a specific literal day. Other times they refer to a general period of time. Often, the context makes a metaphor or figure of speech obvious. But in the case of Genesis 2 verse 17, it's not so clear. The main thing that makes me lean to the interpretation of in the day, suggesting a 24-hour period, is the way Genesis 2 verse 17 and Genesis 3 verses 4 to 5 mirror each other. Yahweh says to Adam, "In the day you eat from the tree, you will surely die." The serpent says, "You will not surely die. For in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and bad." Both use the phrases surely die and in the day, a deliberate literary repetition that may suggest the author is linking the two ideas very intentionally. It seems reasonable to conclude that Yahweh and the serpent mean the same thing when they say in the day. Yahweh doesn't say, "You will age and die someday." He says, "You will surely die." To me, the language implies immediacy, not a drawn-out process. It also doesn't seem like much of a threat if Adam and Eve were already mortal, unless the threat is that their lives would be cut very short. When Adam and Eve eat the fruit, their awakening happens quickly. Notice that when Eve eats the fruit, she gives it to Adam, who is described as being with her. Then their eyes are opened, and they realize they're naked, covering themselves. We are not told that any significant amount of time passes between the eating of the fruit and the awakening, nor are we told that any time passes before Yahweh appears in a physical form, walking in the garden, calling out for Adam. When he confronts Adam and Eve and then starts to punish them and the serpent, it does not say that he has to go off to find the serpent. All the characters are still together for the confrontation and punishment. It seems like it all happens in the same narrative moment, and quickly in real time. And it shows that in the day, in this case, probably means very quickly, if not literally within a day. Note that Jehovah's Witnesses have added words to the New World Translation that are not found in the original Hebrew text. Again, this is just my interpretation. The text leaves room for debate, and that's okay. Because even if we disagree on how to understand in the day, the bigger and undeniable picture in Genesis chapter 2 and chapter 3 remains. The tree of life exists to give everlasting life. If Adam and Eve already had immortality, the tree wouldn't be necessary. So, they weren't immortal to begin with. The serpent plays the role of a trickster, but curiously, what it says will happen actually happens. Their eyes are opened, and they gain knowledge. Yahweh even confirms this. The man has become like one of us, knowing good and bad. Yahweh expels them from the garden to prevent access to the tree of life. Death wasn't introduced by sin or imperfection. It was already part of the world. Disobedience introduced the knowledge of good and bad, a trait Yahweh himself possesses. Yet he is still regarded as perfect by Jehovah's Witnesses and other Christians. So why would it make Adam and Eve imperfect? The exile from the tree of life wasn't an automatic consequence of sin. It was a deliberate choice made by Yahweh. That would mean Paul's statement, "Through one man sin entered the world, and death through sin," contradicts the Genesis narrative when read plainly, and that contradiction is something Jehovah's Witnesses don't want to recognize.